What should a parent be teaching his child? Today we're going to talk about 3 things that every parent should be teaching their children. Number 1, teach them to work hard. Teach them to work hard. How do you do that? First of all, work with your child. You can make up jobs. That's easy to do with your child, but chances are there's plenty of work around your house to do without making up jobs. However, work with your child. Allow them to work with you. I get it. It's probably easier for you to do the job all by yourself than it is to include your child in doing the work, but your child needs to be taught to work hard. Work with your child. Along those same lines, don't complain about work. Don't complain about your work. If we want our children to work hard, then children need to understand that work is not a bad thing. So be careful not to complain about your work. Take them with you when it's possible. Maybe you're working out in the yard and you need to run to the store to get something. Take your child along with you. Let them come along for the ride. And maybe at the store, get something for them to make that trip a little extra special for them, but take them along with you. Don't always give them the nasty part of the job to do or the tedious part of the job to do. If you're painting a room and your child's old enough to help you, you could have your child tape things off, but probably what your child really wants to do is to paint. So try to figure out how to help them do some of the fun stuff with the job, not just the stuff that you don't want to do. So when you're working with your children, let them do some of the fun stuff as well. Very important part, praise their hard work. Oftentimes we get what we praise for. And when your child helps you and they work hard, praise them for that. Recognize their hard work. Or it's a good idea if you're a dad to explain to their mom about how hard that child worked and look at what a good job that they did. When the job is done, remind them of their hard work. If you did paint a room, boy, a week later, sitting in the living room, remind them about, boy, remember that? Remember when you cut in that corner over there? Remember how you did that? Look how nice this room looks because we worked hard and painted it. So remind them of the hard work that they have done. Be careful punishing your child with work. Sometimes a child gets in trouble and maybe their punishment could be to clean out the garage or to go pick up sticks out in the yard. Be careful punishing them with work because work should not be perceived as a bad thing. Work is a good thing. So encourage hard work and don't discourage work by using it as a punishment. Would you agree? Good workers are hard to find. Your children need to recognize that, and they also need to be taught to work hard. Every parent should be teaching their child to work hard. Secondly, teach your child to be grateful. To be grateful. Gratitude is a lost art, and oftentimes those who have been given the most, unfortunately, appreciate it the least. Children should share in the household work, like we just talked about. What does that have to do with gratitude? There is a connection between being a good worker and having gratitude, because you recognize that, things around the house, they don't just happen automatically. I put dirty clothes in that hamper and they come back folded on my bed somehow. Children need to recognize that there is a process and work that goes on to get those clean clothes onto your bed. So children should take part in the work. That helps with gratitude. Children that work hard are often more appreciative. Remind children to say thank you, especially to your spouse. Have them show gratitude to your husband or to your wife. If both the mom and the dad do this for one another, it seems a lot less self-serving. And you know what? That would be good for me to remember to show gratitude towards my wife. And you know what, moms? It would be good for you to show gratitude towards your husband as well. But moms and dads can work together to make sure that the children show gratitude to both mom and dad. Remember, don't complain. Don't complain about your situation. Don't complain about things. Complaining is the opposite of gratitude. Coach John Wooden said this: things turn out best for people who make the best of the way things turn out. And, as a parent, sometimes it's our job to teach our children to make the best of the way things turn out and just be grateful for what we have and don't complain about it. I encourage you to be specific about the things you're thankful for in the life of your child. Be thankful that they are a hard worker. Be thankful that they are obedient. Be thankful that they clean up after themselves. Look for ways to show gratitude to your children, because we are the example in every area, and also in this area of gratitude. For our children's birthdays, we started a few years ago that on their birthday, everybody says one thing that they like about their brother or sister, or one thing that I like about my son on his birthday. And just hearing those good things being said about members of your family multiple times a year on birthdays, I've found to be helpful. It's a way that we show gratitude for one another. I should be teaching my children to work hard. I should be teaching my children to be grateful. Thirdly, and the last thing that we'll talk about today, is I need to teach my children to obey, to just be obedient, to do what mom and dad tell them to do. Oftentimes, as the administrator of a school, I get asked, what does my child need to know for kindergarten? Do they need to know their numbers up through 20? Do they need to know their vowels? Do they need to know their colors? All of those things are important, and I'm not minimizing that. But what I always tell a parent in preparation for that child to come to kindergarten is just teach that child to obey. If the child will obey, we have a professional educator that is employed to teach them their numbers 1 through 20, to teach them their letters, to teach them their colors. Now again, if you're able to teach your child that before kindergarten, great, spend time teaching your children. But above all, they need to know how to obey when they go to school so that they can be taught by others. Teach them to obey. Training your child to obey needs to begin before they can walk or before they can talk. When you can recognize your child understands what you're asking them to do and then doesn't do it, or then they do it, okay, your child is old enough to obey or disobey. And that's when training of obedience needs to begin. If you want your child to obey in public, which we all do, then make sure you're taking time to teach them to obey in private. Look for scenarios in private, which is you and your child, to train your child to obey. Sometimes we discipline embarrassment, not obedience. And you know what? If your child does not obey in private, they're not going to obey in public either. And chances are, if they will obey, and if you train them to obey in private, they will obey in public, and that lessens the amount of embarrassment we might feel as a parent. Let me caution you though, I should not discipline my child out of embarrassment, okay? I should train my child to obey in private and in public. If your child does not obey, there needs to be consequences to that disobedience. Now, you and your spouse need to determine what are those consequences going to be, but there need to be consequences if your child does not obey. And by the way, those consequences can be different each time. You can decide that with your parent, and you need to use your own intelligence and wisdom as a parent as to what the consequence might be. But that should be decided upon before a child disobeys. Again, not out of embarrassment, not out of inconvenience, not out of frustration, okay? But what are those consequences going to be if my child does not obey? Give your child, especially a young child, plenty of opportunities to obey. Plenty of opportunities in private to brag on them to their mom or to their dad about how they obeyed and this is what they did. Look at how they picked up the toys. As soon as I told them to pick up their toys, they did it immediately, and look at what a good job they did obeying. Look for opportunities to brag on your children when they obey. So it's not all about the negative consequences when they disobey. A word of caution: do not accidentally train your child to disobey. Now you might hear that and think, how would I ever do that? Or why would I ever train my child to disobey? If you ever reward your child with what they want when they are being disobedient, you are training them to disobey, okay? If they get what they want out of being disobedient or throwing a temper tantrum, then we are training them to disobey. We are training them, this is how you get what you want. So never reward a child with what he wants if he disobeys in order to get it. That should not be how we work. Make sure if a child obeys, then try to help them, when possible, get what they want. We should reward obedience and don't accidentally reward disobedience. Last thing I'll say about training these three, about training children to work hard, training them to show gratitude and express gratitude, training them to obey. We have to be consistent. We can't laugh at something today that there were consequences for yesterday, or vice versa. We can't all of a sudden be upset about something our child does when we laughed at that yesterday, or maybe we laughed at that when it was done privately, but now out in public when you say that or you do that, now all of a sudden mom or dad, we're frustrated with them. We must be consistent in how we train and teach our children. Final word of admonition, and this is really just a bonus, really work to enjoy teaching your kids. Whatever you teach your kids, whether it's one of these three things or whether really it's something that is really not all that important, but you're spending time with your child to train them or teach them, that is never a waste of time. By training and teaching your kids, you are developing a relationship with those children that is going to be vitally important to training them and teaching them as they get older. Work to enjoy teaching and training your kids. Work to look forward in your own mind with positive and good expectations of the time you're going to spend teaching them and training them. And you know, it may help if you work to see your children as what they're going to become. Maybe not what they are as 3 years of age or 4 years of age. Understand that they're going to grow up and understand that they're going to be good parents someday and maybe a good husband or wife someday. Try to see them as what they are going to become. That might help encourage you as you work to train them on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for watching this video. This shows that you have a desire to teach your children. Continue to work at being the mom or dad that you're supposed to be so we can teach our kids to become what they're supposed to be.